Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user JuggernautSlow4213. Am I the a-hole for skipping my brother's wedding because I wasn't invited to the engagement party? I, 28 male, have a twin brother. Growing up we were inseparable and until recently I thought we were still very close. I was always more of a shy nerd and he was an extrovert that played sports throughout our childhood and high school, but we spent almost all of our time together by choice. We went our separate ways when college came. He stayed local in Arizona and I went to college in Portland. When I graduated, I stayed there because I fell in love with the city. My friends are here, my professional network from internships were here, etc. But I always flew back home for holidays, events, birthdays, etc. Now, my brother announced on Instagram that he and his girlfriend of 3 years got engaged. I was incredibly happy for him and texted him congrats. He mentioned they were planning to have an engagement party in 6 to 8 weeks, and I told him to let him know so I can book a flight to come celebrate. I was never told a date. If I brought it up with him or anyone in my family, they'd change the subject or say it's still being planned and confirmed. After a few weeks, I texted my brother to ask about the date because it must be getting close and I don't want to pay for a last-minute flight. No response. I asked my mom for details and she said, "It's not really an engagement party, just a small dinner with family. There's no need to come down for it." I eventually found out that it was, in fact, a big party. They rented out an entire restaurant for 4 hours and there were about 80 guests. Family, friends, cousins, everyone. Everyone was told I couldn't make it. My aunt, who was like a second mother to me, texted me that she was very disappointed I couldn't make time to join and I replied that I would have happily come, but I was not invited. Word spread quickly about my snub and my parents and brother tried to say it was just a misunderstanding. That was almost over a year ago. Since then, I've tried to get to the bottom of why I wasn't invited. Over the course of months, it went from, it was just meant to be a small gathering, to, I don't know what happened, there must have been a miscommunication, to, it's just a party, it's no big deal. I asked my brother if he was mad at me. I thought maybe his fiancée didn't like me. Even if she or he didn't want me there, why were my parents okay with this? This really wasn't like them. Christmas and Easter was awkward as hell because no one but me wanted to address the elephant in the room and any conversation about anything was like small talk with strangers. When I visited in May for my sister's birthday, I left early after my sister said, "You moved so far away, it's like you're not really family anymore. You make everything feel so weird now." Then, 9 months ago, I got the save the date announcement, and 6 months ago, I got the invitation to the wedding. I wasn't asked to be in the wedding party, which is fine and wasn't surprising at the point. My sister and younger brother were asked to be in the wedding party, so another snub. I also didn't get a +1 for my girlfriend I've been seeing for almost a year and a half. My sister, however, got a +1 for her friends with benefits. So I decided I wasn't welcome and I was probably only invited for optics and to play happy family. I didn't RSVP no since I knew that would cause a crap show. I just didn't go. The wedding was this past weekend. No one contacted me about missing the rehearsal dinner, so I guess even if I did go, I wasn't invited to that either or expected to be there. I started getting calls and texts about an hour before the ceremony asking where I was, if my flight was delayed, how far along will I be, etc. And I ignored them. They stopped for a while during the ceremony, but started up again right after. I finally picked up my mom's call and she screamed, "Where the hell are you?" I replied, "In Portland, where you all prefer me to be." She said, "This is your brother's wedding. How could you embarrass us?" I answered, "It's just a party. It's no big deal, right?" It was probably the first time in my life my mother was speechless. After a few seconds of silence, I said, "Tell everyone I said hi," and I hung up. Now I'm getting calls and texts from everyone saying I was being petty and ruined the day. So am I the a-hole here? I feel like I'm just matching their energy and dropping the rope. No, OP, you weren't being petty or an a-hole. You simply responded to a year-long pattern of exclusion. I mean, let's face it. You asked directly about the engagement party. They lied. You were iced out of your twins' wedding plans and only included when the optics demanded it. And it's not a miscommunication, it was a coordinated shutout. Now, you didn't make a scene, you just stopped playing along. You gave back the same energy as you said, but when they noticed that you were disrupting their perfect family image, that's when they started to freak out. It definitely wasn't because you were wanted there. So no, OP, you didn't ruin anything. They did. When they treated you like you weren't really family until it suited them. So let them sit with the consequences of their actions, and if they ever want reconciliation, it starts with truth and accountability. Until then, I'd go no contact with the family. However, I would make sure to put the case out there just in case they try to play the narrative game. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Groovy Yaya says, I'd ask, if I have the power to ruin the day, why didn't you call me when I missed the rehearsal dinner? If I was so important, why didn't anyone call me in the weeks beforehand to find out why I hadn't RSVP'd? To find out my flight plans? Mom, you didn't notice that I wasn't in the guest bedroom the night before? I suspect that it ruined the day because others remembered my existence and wanted to see me more than you all did. It has been clear from the get-go that I was not welcome and that my being there would ruin things. I wasn't invited to any of the pre-wedding festivities and sisters said it was weird when I was there. My girlfriend of over a year wasn't welcome at all, so I stayed home with her. She likes having me around. Literal Cheesehead 12 says, not the a-hole. Could you have maybe RSVP'd no? Sure, but 6 months went by from the time the invitations went out to the wedding, and you didn't RSVP yes either. And nobody bothered to reach out to make sure you were coming or ask what dish you wanted, see if you needed to stay home or if you were getting a hotel. Just complete radio silence and somehow they think you're the bad guy? Nah, you just got a crash course in how narcissistic your family is. They assumed they could treat you like crap and tell you aren't really a part of the family anymore, but you'd still show up to not embarrass them. Divorce the family, marry Portland. Leatherbag5939 says, wow, makes my blood boil reading this. Plenty of people relocate and aren't cut out of their families as a result. This is some high-level BS going on. I'm so sorry for you and I hope your girlfriend has a great family. And Dopey responds, the flights aren't even long, 2.5 hours, and between holidays and birthdays and other celebrations, I'm back in Phoenix almost every month. It's not like I've moved to another country and they haven't seen me in years. The Tomahawk 97 says, not the a-hole. They didn't want you there. They just didn't expect you to finally believe them. What they did was calculated. They made a choice repeatedly to exclude you and hope you'd stay quiet to keep the peace. And when you stopped playing along, they suddenly start vilifying you. Textbook manipulation. You handled it with more grace than most would. You gave them the same dismissive energy they gave you for over a year. Actions have consequences, and they're just upset that you finally gave them one. Let them sit in it. You didn't ruin the day. They did. When they decided you weren't worth including. And Emotion87 says, not the a-hole. It may seem petty to some, but they didn't have enough decency to be straight with you about the engagement party and made you feel unwelcome in your own family. I'd say not to close the door entirely, as they may come back around and apologize to you someday, but for the time being, you are within your rights to cut contact. And OP responds, honestly, I was going to suggest family therapy, but I'm not sure that'll even work or if I want anything out of that. Thinking about the last few years, it feels like any contact was always initiated by me. Additional information from OP's comments. Looking back, what really stings isn't just being excluded, it's how long I tried to stay connected while getting crumbs in return. Over the past few years, I realized I'm almost always the one who initiates. If I don't text, we don't talk, unless someone needs money. I visit nearly monthly, 10 times a year sometimes, but because I chose to build my life in Portland, it's like I've committed some sort of betrayal. Everyone else stayed in Arizona, within a half hour from each other. I was supposed to come back after college. The guilt trips nearly worked. And it's not like I've been unreachable. My brothers visited a few times, my sister lived with me during a summer internship, and my cousin stayed with me for 2 years while finishing school. But despite all that, I've been slowly edged out. It hit hard when I learned I wasn't even at the family table at the wedding. A cousin told me there wasn't room. Same excuse used for my brother's wife's sister, who has a history with addiction. Clean now, but still boxed out just in case. When I mentioned this to my aunt, one of the only people who called and got a real response, she told me point blank, "You kids always had rose-colored glasses. Your mother's always been a see you next time."
See you next time.
This was probably her influence. Then there's the wedding guest list politics. My girlfriend of over a year wasn't given a +1. At first, she shrugged it off, figured it was one of those engaged or married only rules. But then we found out my sister got a +1 for her situationship, someone she's not even dating. So again, the message was clear. This wasn't an oversight, it was a choice. Professionally, my twin and I are both doing fine. He's a marketing analyst, I've got a boring but high-paying job. I've helped family financially more than once. Not loans, just gifts, because I know how that goes. But giving 110% and getting 70% back on a good day wears you down. Eventually, it starts to feel like charity they resent you for. And maybe I should have expected fallout for not showing up, but I didn't expect rage. My brother left me 2 voicemails, one saying he was disappointed, the second calling me a piece of crap for ruining the most important day of his life. That was the moment I stopped wondering if I'd made the right call. We used to be close, really close, yearly visits, catching up with long texts and inside jokes, nothing political or personal that would obviously cause this rift, but I see it now. I wasn't asked to step away, I was quietly pushed, until it looked bad for them that I wasn't in the room. Anyway, I don't need to fix people who've made it clear they don't want me there, and I definitely don't need to show up just to be a prop in someone else's perfect photo. The community agrees that OP is not the a-hole, and in the additional context, I think we're getting a hint as to why this is. Apparently, the mom's running the show. So now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. Thank you to everyone who responded to my last post. I can't believe how many replies I got, and I tried keeping up but couldn't. I also thought I'd be 50-50 not the a-hole and you're the a-hole because I know what I did was a bit petty. So, to the people who said you're the a-hole, I understand your reasons. Yes, it was cowardly to not RSVP'd to avoid drama, but looking back, I was in a headspace where I'd just cave to the guilt if I'd RSVP'd that I wasn't planning to attend. Also, a little part of me was hoping they'd realize I didn't RSVP and they tell me they want me to come. But every day that passed between the RSVP date and the wedding, I got angrier and more hurt, and I wanted to make it clear in a big way that if they don't want me around, I don't have to be around. And I get that's an a-hole move. I had a phone call with my aunt and cousin last night about the wedding drama. They have given me some information and our suspicions are a bit of conjecture based on what we know and what we've heard, but here it goes. We really do think my mother felt I rejected them when I didn't move back after graduating. This is despite always coming home for my brother and sister's graduations, all birthdays, mine and immediate families, holidays, special events, etc. I practically visit on a monthly basis, but despite this, we think that she has some weird vendetta against me for splitting up her family and being an example to my siblings that they don't have to stay local. Even worse, somehow visiting so often made my mother resentful because my aunt mentioned that my mother once told her a few years ago that I was flaunting my wealth by showing I could visit so often. Thanks to my senior year internship, I went immediately into a field where progression can be quick, and thanks to going back for a very specialized master's degree, I am in a very niche space within that field and was able to move up faster. I'm not bragging, it was just luck, connections, and a great mentor early on, and the grind that you put in. Don't dismiss what you did. People suggested my brother might be jealous. He does earn less, but as far as I know, he loves his job. It just doesn't have the same career progression. Honestly, his job is much more exciting than mine, and I'm sure it fulfills him a lot more. My job isn't terrible, it's just not one anyone wants to hear work stories about at a dinner party, lol. I was also flaunting my money by gifting family money when they needed it. My grandfather often said, never loan family money. Give it freely if you want to, but you'll destroy relationships when you start asking for repayment. Not a week of Judge Judy reruns go by without proving that true. So, when I could, I've gifted my family money when they needed it. Money for car repairs, money to help with my parents' mortgage when my dad was out of work during COVID, money when my brother ran out halfway through his kitchen renovations, and until last night, my parents' internet and Disney Plus bills, but I've now cancelled the monthly auto payments. Again, this was me flaunting my success, but they never stopped asking either. My aunt and cousin also said they've heard lots of passive-aggressive comments about me over the years. First, from my mother during the first few years after I decided to stay in Portland, and then eventually from my siblings. We're pretty sure my mother slowly poisoned them against me for not moving back home and showing what happens if they ever tried to move away. Now, a while back, when I took my girlfriend home for the first time, my family loved her, or at least they say they do. My mother pulled me aside and said I finally found someone who can put up with me and she can stop worrying about my future. And after all of this, I see that sounds less like a tongue-in-cheek joke and more like a not-so-subtle barb. I laughed it off as just my mom's humor. But I now see that these passive-aggressive comments to me, to my siblings, over years was subtle manipulation to turn them against me and for me to learn to accept it. A lot of people suggested this treatment was to get me to move back home and to punish me for leaving, but I'm not going to come home to embrace treatment like this and hope it goes away now that they got their way, especially when it's been too ingrained in them by now. It also explains why, for the past few years, almost every conversation is initiated by me. They simply don't like me anymore and don't need me until they need or want something. My cousin also learned from another cousin that my brother shot himself in the foot when he mentioned the engagement party. I wasn't supposed to know at all. The plan was to tell everyone I couldn't make it and hope I'd never find out. My brother told that cousin that I wasn't supposed to find out about it, but after he let it slip, I wouldn't shut up about asking to come. Based on how they've been talking about me for a couple of years, lots of extended family think I'm some annoying loser who makes my too often visits miserable for my family and I can't get the hint to F off. So I'm finally effing off. My aunt and mother never really got along. My aunt is my mother's brother's wife. But my aunt said she knew all of this had my mom's name all over it and that years of digs, passive-aggressive comments, and full-on aggressive comments have all come to this. She said they're not the same people. I told them that I don't think there's any coming back from this then. My aunt and cousin both mentioned that they never heard my dad say anything bad. So my aunt is going to have my uncle talk to my dad man to man to see if he can find out what the hell is going on. I thanked my aunt and cousin and reminded them they are pretty much the only family I have left and I don't plan on losing touch with them. My aunt even mentioned that they haven't gone camping in years and asked if there are any nice places around Portland. It's too far to drive to go camping, but it means they may visit sometime. They also said they're going to try and correct information about me with extended family members, but I told them to not bother. They've already chosen to believe it. But for now, my immediate family are cut off. I've blocked them on my phone and social media. No more free handouts when they need money. No more wasting money to go to Phoenix effing Arizona 10 plus times a year just to be roasted by the sun and family members. No more punching bag. Thank you for all your support and helping me realize my family really is crappy. Well, OP, like your aunt said, it does sound like your mom is a see you next time. And even this whole situation sucks, the silver lining is that now you know who truly loves you in your family. So here's wishing you the best, OP. Thanks for sharing and take care. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user FlossingHorse741. I should cancel on my end? No problem. I booked accommodation 2 months in advance for St. Patrick's weekend in Dublin. It was a fairly ancient B&B, but for €150, it was a place to sleep and cheapest option for the busiest weekend of the year in Dublin. It was a one double bed for me and a buddy to share. It was pay on arrival. 3 weeks before the stay, the accommodation manager messaged me on the app I booked the stay on, telling me there's a problem. I can no longer stay and to cancel on my side immediately. No apology, let alone help offered by them. This was followed by multiple phone calls daily, along with text messages in a harassing nature saying I need to cancel now so I can get my money back. Once again, it was pay on arrival. I didn't answer the calls or messages telling me to cancel. Something felt off, so I checked the listing for the night I was supposed to stay, and it just so happened the accommodation had been listed again for double the price. Likely, the manager realized St. Patrick's weekend was a cash grab. Maybe not immediately, but at the property manager's request, I simply rang Booking.com and told them I'd like to cancel my booking. The customer service rep asked why I was canceling. I explained in detail all the above to her, and things took an unexpected turn for the property manager. Ultimately, the rep agreed the property was acting in an unfair manner, and the solution was that Booking.com would find me accommodation within 1 kilometer. Originally, they tried to get me to stay way outside of the city, but I wasn't having it, of where I intended to stay. The original property would then be liable to cover any difference in cost. Here's the good part. Finding accommodation 3 weeks before St. Patrick's Day in Dublin is about as difficult as trying to light a fire with flint and steel in the rail. Near impossible. Everything within a 1 kilometer range was booked out except for a well-known 4-star hotel. The room alone cost €350 per night and had 2 double beds, much bigger room and in a nicer location. The customer rep had to get it cleared by her lead team, so I just sat on hold doing chores for 25 minutes. Eventually, they came back and said it was all signed off and they'll send me a special link. What a treat! I gladly accepted their compromise. This, in turn, meant the property owner that tried to force me to cancel on my end was now indebted €235, and we got a massive upgrade for the same price we originally had. I had to pay the €350 up front and had to keep receipts and show proof of payment to the booking partner after our stay, but I got my refund of €235 the following week. Well, OP, what can I say? This was awesome. Greed basically made the property owner lose money, and maybe he got kicked out of Booking.com too. In any case, OP, thanks so much for sharing. Take care. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.